talk in a four-part series. And what we're doing is we are delving into the metaphysical science of mind interpretation of The Wizard of Oz. One of my favorites. Okay. And my wand is still missing, so I'm sorry, but Glinda's not in this one. Maybe I'll have it for Glinda, who was in it last week. No, today we're going to include the Tin Man and the Straw Man into our metaphysical interpretation of the fabulous movie, The Wizard of Oz. And these are two of the beloved characters that Dorothy encountered over there, over the rainbow, over there in Oz, the world of Oz. And in a context of a sentence opener that is just like death to the fullest expression of life is, and you remember the song, but this played through the movie. If I only had a brain, if I only had a heart, if I only had, you can fill in the blank for your own life. What do we do with our own lives? I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough. What we need, what we want, what we're not, but all the while this talk is going to explain how we really are, all those things, and so much more. So a lot of people from early in life have been told, they've been told that we aren't enough, that we don't have enough, that we have to be a certain way, and we never fit in with that way, possibly. So this movie is a beautiful example of how, yeah, we do. And these spiritual teachings, yeah, we do. So we're going to get into race consciousness, which is the collective unconscious of our society, the mass advertisements, as you see them, and even many religions will teach us to focus on what we don't have instead of what we have. How we can be better, how we should be better, more than would be better, but should be better. And we begin to think and feel, if I only had, if I was only, and you just, as I said before, fill in the blank. You have yours, and we want you to turn it around and step into that claiming, I got that. I got that and so much more, because I have within me a divinity that is filled with every quality of the human nature and so much more. So we have all of that within us. We come to believe more in the power of circumstances most of the time than in the power of God at work in our lives. Whatever you think you still need in life is something you think has more power than God. There is nothing more powerful than this incredible genius of creation that has created all that is, was, and ever shall be, and that's the truth of who we are. We come in as God beings having a human experience, and we leave as God beings. We are God beings. So we have within us, but nobody told us, we have within us all of the intelligence, the love, the wisdom, the abundance, the joy that the universe could possibly provide, the wholeness, nothing missing. If it's what we think we need or we're missing that brings us to a place of fear. Instead of focusing on the possibilities in each and every situation, our focus, like Dorothy's, turns to lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. I don't say that. Lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. I know you really don't. But it does. It turns to fear. So this morning we're going to look at two great spiritual teachers, the Scarecrow and the Tin Man. And they are going to show us just how incredible we are. They taught us that we already have so much more than we think we need. The Scarecrow says, if I only had a brain, I'd know what to do. He thinks he doesn't know. But for someone who insists that he doesn't have a brain, the Scarecrow has given a lot of thought to what he would do if he had one. You get that?
Mm-hmm.
If you recall, he sang, which I won't do that to you, but he sang these words. I'd think of things I'd never thunk, and then I'd sit and think some more. And so he wants to have a brain. He wants to have this brain so that when he asks Dorothy if he can accompany her to the Emerald City to see the Wizard of Oz and ask him for some brains, he wants Dorothy to take him. And Dorothy warns him against it. If you don't remember the movie, we're showing it December 3rd. She warns him that the Wicked Witch is mad at her and that he might get in trouble if he came with her. And he said, "A witch? I'm not afraid of a witch." He insists, "I'm not afraid of anything." Remember him? "I'm not afraid of anything except a lighted match. And then I'd face a whole box of them for the chance of getting some brains." As Dorothy and her companions nervously followed that yellow brick road through the dark and creepy forest, the Scarecrow said, "Of course I don't know, but I think it'll get darker before it gets lighter." The Scarecrow is actually offering a keen philosophical insight. It does seem darkest before the dawn. Or as the Tao Te Ching calls it and writes, the path into light is dark. Seems dark. The path into light seems dark. So when we go through a lot of our darkness, there is always that light waiting for us to embrace it because it's present all of the time. It's always there. How could a brainless scarecrow say something so insightful? Nature's intelligence flows freely and effortlessly through him. When you are in harmony with the creative intelligence of the cosmos, you can harness the full potential of the universe. The universe is at your beck and call, really waiting for you to claim your good. If you had been stuck on a pole in the middle of a cornfield with crows pecking at you, let it go. Let it go. Free that energy, rechannel it, and allow it to manifest in the more meaningful way. To acquire anything you desire, release the "if I only had." If I only had. See how many times you say that in life. If I only had, then this would happen. If I only had. Attitude. And how do you do that? Simply keep your attention on the here and now. We can't emphasize how important this now moment truly is. It's where we co-create with the infinite genius of all possibilities. It's limitless. Our potential is limitless, but nobody has taught us that. So we find it out and we believe it. And when you believe that your potential is limitless, everything is possible. Everything is true. The universe does conspire for your highest and best good. Always, in all ways. When the Scarecrow craves intelligence, which he assumes he doesn't have, and it escapes him, but when he lets go of the preoccupation with obtaining a brain, he becomes the quick thinker, problem solver. He's focusing on something that he thinks he doesn't have, something that he lacks. And what happens when we focus on something we lack? We manifest it, correct? But this is a very bright Scarecrow. When Dorothy can't figure out how to get him down from that pole, he spontaneously proposes to her. "You'll just bend the nail down a little bit in the back and maybe I'll slip up." When the talking apple trees refused to give their apples to Dorothy, the Scarecrow instinctively uses reverse psychology to provoke the trees to throw their apples at them. This is the Scarecrow that wants the brain. When the doorman at the Emerald City asked Dorothy to prove that the Good Witch of the North sent her to see the wizard, she wouldn't let them in. The Scarecrow quickly pointed to the most compelling evidence of all. The witch gave her, the Good Witch, gave her those red ruby slippers. Instant after instant, that Scarecrow uses that innate intelligence which is within him. So he's not recognizing it. The Scarecrow is an exquisite example to anyone who feels intellectually inadequate. If you feel intellectually inadequate, you're smarter than you think you are. Each and every person is always smarter than we think we are. When you trust in the power of the divine nature, you have no need to impress others. You don't have to impress anyone else. You don't need to seek approval. You don't have to use big, long, intelligent, fancy words. None of that matters. What matters is what the Tin Man's going to provide, the heart from which you speak. That's what matters. Lao Zun in the 6th century BC confirmed this as he said, when you look for it, there's nothing to see. When you listen for it, there's nothing to hear. But when you use it, it's inexhaustible. That's what we do with the law of God. We use it to create. Our thoughts and our feelings, our emotions are creative. We are creative beings. That's how we are built to function through life. We create. Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, wrote this in his book. God is forever doing new things. Think about this. This is a oneness. God is forever doing new things. And when we conceive new ideas, it is an act of the divine projecting itself into them. The Spirit, he writes, did not have a lot of little flying machine models put away in a cosmic cupboard somewhere, but the mind that conceived the possibility of the flying machine is God's mind. Remember, there's one mind, that's God's mind, that's my mind now. That's the mind we're using. Back to Holmes. This is God in us. And it is only through this mind that we understand anything. St. Paul said, we have the mind of Christ, which means that each one of us has immediate access to the intelligence of the universe. This is still Holmes. How many times a day do you say, I don't know? At the core of this message is the core belief that we are separate from God. Saying, I like this, saying I don't know is a prayer. It's an affirmation that you don't know. And if you continuously say, and I know I do sometimes, I don't know, I'm affirming what I don't want. I'm affirming that I really don't know. Instead of, you might ask, who would you do? What would you do if you did know? We are standing in a vast sea of infinite potentiality. All things are possible. All the most successful people that we see on this planet have known this. They know that all is possible. They know that they are capable of creating whatever their heart's desire is, whatever their mind's intention is. And they do it. They don't say, I don't know. The rational mind wants to know it all. We all know our ego minds do. And when it doesn't know it, it says, I don't know. The intuitive mind, that's our divine mind, which we all have, is willing to just say, just whatever it takes. Just whatever it takes, instead of, I don't know. Great illustration here is from, this is dating, but a Herman classic comic, if you remember that. If you don't, that's okay. A while ago, and it's about two mice who were looking at a piece of cheese strategically placed in a mousetrap. As the one has his hand over the cheese, the other says, I don't know, but I got a funny feeling about this. Intuition. The mind knows everything. We say I don't know all the time, but sometimes something inside of us does know. It knows everything if we tap into it, if we learn that we have the power within us all the time. What would happen in your life if you said, I know, instead of I don't know? Or, if I did know, what would I do? If I did know, what would I do? So this week, when you hear yourself saying, I don't know, use that as a reminder. Just a little shift. A reminder, what would I do if I did know? Just shifts everything. Because we know the divine mind, with every seeming problem that comes into our lives, that comes with a solution. We are in the solution, but we don't see it. So now we are getting permission to access the infinite potential to every single challenge that we might have. Ernest Holmes wrote this beautiful affirmation for the Science of Mind magazine many years ago. He wrote this: I know that today I walk in the full understanding of my oneness with God. God is at the center of my being, and from this center I receive inspiration which governs my every thought, my every act, with certainty, love, and peace. Isn't that beautiful? Well, it's the truth. It's not just a bunch of pretty words. It is the spiritual truth to use as we have these human experiences. Now the Tin Man, what does he want?
Heart.
He wants a heart. The Tin Man wants a heart. So what do most of us want more than anything in the world? To love and to be loved. Yes?
Yes.
Once again, the challenge we have on our journey is thinking that we don't have it. It's thinking something's missing. But he, like the scarecrow, showed us, see, metaphysical business, he showed us how he was really filled with love. He was really filled with love. Remember the Wicked Witch, when she threatened to stuff a mattress with the scarecrow and use the Tin Man for a beehive unless the two stayed away from Dorothy? She threatened to stuff him and set him on fire. But the Tin Man, she threw a ball of fire at she threw a ball of fire at the scarecrow. And we know it's straw, so. And who was it who saved the scarecrow? The Tin Man. He slammed his tin hat down on that fireball to extinguish it purely, freely, giving of his loving self. He was practicing loving kindness, but he wanted a heart. He thought it was missing. It was the Tin Man who insisted that he will get Dorothy to the wizard, whether he got a heart or not. He was filled with compassion. He was filled with compassion. He had an enormous heart. Without knowing it, the Tin Man touches nearly everyone he meets with some kind act, something loving, something compassionate. Important point here, though. He couldn't activate the innate love that he was. He could not get in touch with who he was until he got some unconditional love from Dorothy, which came in the form of what? Can anyone remember?
Oil.
Woo, there's some sharp people. An oil can. An oil can. If we are frozen frozen in fear, we need to have our love pump powered. We need to have our love pump primed. We need to have it primed so that we are giving. Because in that giving, we are more than receiving. We are receiving in this ocean of unconditional love. Love is a life force. Remember that. God is love, pure love. Not some love, all love. And it doesn't judge us either. So love is a life force that must continue circulating to keep the energy coming to you, through you, as you. You must love in perpetual motion. This kind of love is active. It's an activity. It's not stagnant. It is for the law of circulation is always moving. It is vitally important, however, that you make certain that the intention behind that giving is selfless. Don't expect anything. You give for the sake of giving, from a pure heart, from pure love. Nothing in return. You cannot have an ulterior motive in this kind of giving. You cannot be trying to manipulate anyone, because that's not unconditional love. And the divine loves us unconditionally. Not one single condition is attached to it. It is freely given. That's unconditional love. That's the conditional love that we've had way too much of in our lives. It's time for that to dissipate so that we can be the essence of love. And if we don't know how to do it, give. Give. Give of your time, give of your talent, give of your treasures. Give. It ignites the entire process. Your goal should always be to create happiness for its own sake, not for any other reason. The most precious gifts you give are spiritual. They're not tangible. Appreciation, love, affection, gratitude, compassion. These are all the things the Tin Man was giving all along. And unwittingly, unconsciously, he thought he didn't have a heart. There is a direct correlation between the depth and sincerity of the love you have for others and what you get in return. Jesus said, sometimes you sow in one field and harvest in another. It's the law of circulation. Always get back what we're giving out. It might not look like the form that we expect it to look like, but it is always coming back in some form of good. When we love our enemies, they don't always love us back in return. So what? So what? We love anyway. We love anyway because nobody should take away your ability to love. And you are foolish if you hold resentment, because you are hurting and harming yourself so deeply. So deeply. So it's to go back to, I have to be at peace in here. God is love. I am love. How can I give more of my love? Doesn't mean you have to like the person, but you love. And you don't hold those heavy, dark burdens that will keep you from experiencing your own happiness. The universe responds in direct proportion to the love we give out. We get it back. No one loves the Wicked Witch of the West because she doesn't have a smidgen of love for anyone. Her motives are selfish and egocentric. The Wizard of Oz, he only loves so that he can stay in power. He's all about the power. Remember him? His love is conditional and insincere. And he is loved as long as he protects the Emerald City from this wicked witch. Throughout the story, though, the Tin Man is the Tin Man, the one who didn't think he had a heart, who loves unconditionally. He doesn't ask for anything in return. The Tin Man shows us that if you want to be blessed with a heart, you must give from your heart. Always. How much you are loved by others is equal to how deeply you are loving. Everybody, all the time. Sometimes you can get mad at someone, that's okay. We are human, after all. We can get a little mad, but don't let it stick around. As I've said many times, don't let it hang out in hell. Don't you hang out in hell and build a condo. Move through it. You don't want to live in that. People live in anger and grief their entire lives. Let me tell you something. It's been so freeing for me to practice true forgiveness. Completely freed up my energy so that more good can flow through me. It's for ourselves. It's for ourselves. So if you want to be blessed with love, you must give from your heart. Give and you shall receive. When you give from your heart, empathetically, unconditionally, fully giving from your heart, constantly, without expecting anything in return, the whole world opens up for you. You receive happiness in abundance. It's the way it works. The Tin Man is expressing the perennial wisdom. It is in giving that we receive. When you put the goodness within you to work for another, when you decide to love for love's sake alone, just because it feels good, you gotta live inside your own physical body. Do it because it feels good. It brings happiness. Whether you decide to love for love's sake, not because the other is doing something worthy of your love. When you learn to give of yourself without expecting anything in return, then the universe pours its grace and blessings into our lives in ways that is so overwhelming. And we wake up feeling joy. You can't buy joy. Nobody can give you joy. You wake up feeling happiness. You can't buy happiness. Nobody can give you happiness. Where are you stuck in your life? Frozen in the yard like the Tin Man. He was frozen. Get love first. Get love first. Rather than wishing or expecting that people or situations will change or someone will do something for you. Simply look around and see how you could love more. That's it in the giving. Michael Moran wrote this in one of his books, The 7 Intuitions of the Spiritual Path, where he wrote this, really good. The gift of awakening the heart center and beyond are beyond measure. As Charles Dickens wrote, a loving heart is the truest wisdom. Love that. The opening of the heart center is synonymous with the quickening of the soul. It is not something that can be faked or contrived, nor is it fleeting or temporary. The love of an open heart center is real, authentic, and powerful. And Holmes wrote this, that the most valuable thing that we can do is to be a little more certain each day that we are meeting life with the greatest sense of love, with the greatest stepping out. This is how we can live the life we want to live. Divine intelligence and infinite love are the truth of our being. They're available to us at all times. They're within. They're not out here. They're in here. So we must learn to connect and get in touch with in here. That's what this scarecrow and the Tin Man represent. Infinite intelligence and divine love. Two eternal qualities that they were both looking for, that they had already possessed. So, in finishing this then, it's a bit long, but it's so good. I love that movie. Technicolor. I got a bunch of, for the next week, I have a bunch of questions of trivia about the Wizard of Oz. Very interesting. But you're not going to hear it. Not even on YouTube. You can hear it on YouTube. But all these talks are on YouTube. Here's a poem by Russ Kuhn that encapsulates these ideas. So let me read that. Here I am, saying I am that I am. Therefore, I begin to realize I am centered in love. I am surrounded by beauty. I am filled with joy. I am tapping the infinite intelligence. I am the unceasing energy that is atomic power. I am the wisdom of the universe. And therefore, I am of God. Beautiful. The key is, however, when will I finally fully accept this great I am? It is the truth of our being. How about today? How about we start right here, right now? We're going over and celebrating. And we're going to be expressing love and joy. We're going to be eating beautiful food. So how about today taking a lesson from the Tin Man and the Scarecrow and realizing that everything you desire, you already have within you. How about we do that today? How about we start right here in this moment?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Let's go with it.
All right.